Hello. Just looking at some calendar pictures which I recently took with the OM-5 and the 12-45 zoom lens, the Pro lens, f4 constant aperture. It's a wonderful combination which OM system let me have a couple of years ago. Now, I have been associated with Olympus and OM systems since 1998, but my approach to photography, because it goes back to 1959, in the days of the Agfa Select camera, if you might recall, then very much my photography is very traditional. I do embrace digital photography, but only as an aid and not as an answer. So you might not like this program. Nevertheless, let's have a look at a dozen pictures taken, as I say, with the OM-5, the 12-45 Pro lens. Can't show it to you at the moment because guess what? It's recording this video as well. See you in the program in just a moment. I specialize in landscape and architecture, and much of my work is a partnership between camera and post-production software. For this program, I am using OM system OM-5 plus 12-45 Pro lens with Adobe Lightroom and Photoshop. I am hand-holding everything and spot metering for exposure control. This is particularly useful for compositions of high contrast, and these before and after images outline my working practice. What I execute in Lightroom may have you tearing your hair out, but it works, and I get them published. Much of what I show of the metadata is academic. Through experience, not only can I see the result before I take the shot, but the problems on the way, and that includes other people entering the Beauchamp Chapel, so I take several snaps. The light was extremely harsh, but I knew where to spot meter from and how it will help post-production. I am demonstrating a craft, not a quick fix. Whilst in Warwick, I visited the Lord Leicester's Hospital. Its historic buildings go back to the 13th century. I like to present buildings accurately, even if they appear to be falling down. Not so here, but whilst preserving accuracy by avoiding, for example, converging or diverging verticals, I must be aware that parts of the building may now be leaning a bit. Close-ups of flowers look best if you can separate them from a busy background. Some distance between the shrub and background will help by using aperture priority f5.6. Not only do I blur the background, but also ensure sufficient depth of field using a modest telephoto, which will reduce depth of field to keep the azalea completely sharp. Also, spot metering the azalea will render the background underexposed, which on this occasion I don't lighten because it will become a distraction. Most work done in camera, but this technique will be optically difficult with a smartphone. Their sensors are usually smaller, creating more depth of field where it is not required. However, whilst Micro Four Thirds sensors are larger, they are smaller than full frame. This gives extra depth of field when required, even at f4, assisted here by a wide-angle optic. Furthermore, the advanced image stabilization allows me to hand-hold the OM-5 and quickly take a shot before someone walks into view. I did have time to spot meter, and quite a bit of work was essential in Lightroom to balance the mixture of light and a high contrast composition. As well as taking the big view in a cathedral, I also look for detail, particularly patterns. Again, the image stabilizer in the OM-5 has allowed me to shoot at a modest telephoto, and I corrected converging verticals in Lightroom as I pointed the camera up from horizontal. For this interpretation, I had more light, allowing a shorter shutter speed, and I prefer the composition. Not perhaps an artistic or record shot in its own right, but a composition that I might use as background in a program like this. National Trust properties do not permit the use of tripods inside their properties. Now this was quite a challenge to get a sharp image and maintain sufficient depth of field. Do I see the vague form of a face in the panel? Foreground interest is essential in landscapes and sufficient depth of field if everything needs to be sharp. I see photographers taking photos a little way down the path, but I think the picture needs to be framed by the open gate and trees. As a matter of interest, Leith Hill Place, a historic property connected with the Wedgwoods, was also the boyhood home of Ralph Vaughan Williams, composer of The Lark Ascending and Fantasia on Greensleeves. Rainbows do not always appear in the right place. The low arc of the rainbow is because the sun is still high in the sky. Does this shot improve things? Portrush, on the north coast of County Antrim, has expansive beaches, as well as hosting the Golf Open Championship. I went for a long walk along the beach and captured some atmospheric shots. Incidentally, I will get rid of the cranes on the left-hand side of the image. Derry, or Londonderry, is Northern Ireland's second largest city. Its completely intact city walls, built in the 17th century, are one of its famous architectural features. The Peace Bridge was opened in 2011 and photographically makes an excellent lead into the city centre, here backed by a dramatic cloudscape. I waited for the train, but photographically, is it going the wrong way? It is not coming into the picture. I caught the next train back to Coleraine. The wonderful thing about the OM-5 with the 12-45 Pro lens that I have not mentioned is that it is much lighter. As a person who is now an octogenarian, of course the one thing in photography I can't help, I can explain practically everything else, but not the fact that I've reached the age of 80. And what becomes important these days is the size and weight of a camera. For many years, I was a firm devotee of the EM1 camera, wonderful camera, and the classic 12-100 lens. But I'm sorry, it is getting a little heavy these days. I shall keep it, but much of my future work, which you will also see on this YouTube channel, is taken, of course, with the OM-5. Oh, by the way, in the intro, forgot to show you the calendar. There it is. I'm getting many pictures accepted with the OM-5 12-45 lens, which for me, being a sort of semi-retired professional photographer, is the acid test. So I hope see you in a future program. I'm coming up to, I think, program number 500. May have passed it already. So I have reached one landmark at least in my YouTube channel. And incidentally, thank you very much for looking at and supporting my work.